So the civil war in MAGA land continues, and now Donald Trump is weighing in. In fact, he's backing President Musk, and you got to see this. The drama gets crazy. This is Trump headlines. Trump says H-1B visa program is great amid MAGA feud over tech workers. And then you got this one. Trump supports immigration visas backed by Musk. Of course you do. I have many H-1B visas on my properties. So what's going on here, guys? Basically, if you don't know the history of the whole Trumpy stuff, he's whole platform, right? His whole campaign, his whole presidency is all based on anti-immigration stuff. It's based on racist stuff. It's pretty frank. And basically, vote for me. I'll kick out the dark people, and I'll give all you people that look like me jobs. Yeah, and that's sort of what Musk's whole spiel is. This actually flies in the face of that, and essentially Trump has to go along with this stuff because he himself hires these kind of people to turn the H-1B visas. Also, which I mentioned several times on the channel, Trump is a hypocrite. If you guys don't know, he hires illegals and undocumented workers also, right? So essentially what this boils down to, and I want to make it really clear if people are unclear of what's going on, the Trumps and the Musks of the world, right? The people at the very, very top, the billionaires, they want to hire cheap workers. Cheap workers maintain your margins. Cheap workers are indentured to you, right? They have less rights. You can pay them less. You can put them in dangerous assignments. You can work them longer hours, whatever. That's what they want. And it's so ironic and crazy sort of how this is all surfacing right before President Musk and Trump go into office. And we're kind of seeing who wears the pants, I guess you could say, in this particular relationship. The other way to think about it as well, if you don't know, Musk and his buddy Peter Thiel essentially handpicked JD Vance. I don't know where Vance is and all this stuff. And all these guys, like they're frankly hypocrites. Trump's whole spiel is kind of crazy. He always says he hires the greatest people, whatever. But as you can clearly see, he mostly just hires people from Florida with, we'll say dubious past, right? Or he likes to hire people with crazy scandals or professional wrestling, kind of stuff. For real, it's like how's this even a conversation? But ultimately, what it boils down to, if you want to get a job working in, Trump's administration, bribe Trump, give Trump a bunch of money, right? And as long as the money is flowing, he'll just say whatever the money wants him to say. Or the other situation is like he'll say whatever whether his supporters want to hear, but behind closed doors, he just does whatever lines his pockets. That's what this is all about. I've been noticing some really, drama going on over in MAGA land. Laura Loomer, which is kind of an interesting one. So she's one of the big social media people over on the right side, confidant to Trump. And, I don't follow every single word that she says. Just this particular drama has been pretty funny to see in public explode. But this is what she says. She says, I don't really like what Cenk Uygur says most of the time, but I'll give him credit for saying he doesn't think I should be unverified. Thank you, Cenk. And then Cenk's been tweeting out, I guess he agrees with Elon and Vivek or whatever. I don't know what's going on with Cenk. I don't know what's going on with Laura, with all these people. Other than there's a lot of infighting, and I don't know if they're just trying to figure out who can snuggle up closest to Trump, or they're trying to figure out, okay, should I go with the Trump team or should I go with, the Musk team? Ask them. I don't know what's going on in their minds, but this is sort of what we're seeing this rupture. And I want to make this really clear. I feel sorry about the whole Cenk situation. People have been asking me in comments about this lately. If you don't know, he's popular on YouTube. Him and Anna, they have the Young Turks. I don't know Cenk personally. He did go to my school though, but I just don't know him personally. However, I did meet John. This was back in 2016 in LA. And John's a nice guy. He's not, I won't say he's like my friend or anything, but I met him. And this was, you can see my politics, so we were at a Bernie event. And it's interesting because I guess, Cenk, and I don't know if Laura is going closer to Cenk and Cenk's going closer to Laura Loomer, who knows? But people have been asking about it, and I looked into it, and I was like, what the heck's Cenk doing now? I guess he was hanging out with right-leaning people, Charlie Kirk on stage, and I don't know what these people are up to. What I can say though, with again all this sort of wrestling around, just people deciding do I want to be closer to Musk or to Trump, I just wish people were talking more honest about these topics in general. Let's make this clear again. I'll make it really clear. these people, the Trumps and the Musks, they want low paid workers. They want workers that they can abuse. They want workers that have limited rights, etc. That's why they hate unions, these kind of things, and they'll just do whatever lines their pockets. I also want to share my experiences. So, if you don't know, I'm a U.S. citizen. I was born in Vietnam, but I grew up in USA, and I've also worked abroad. So, I worked in China, Korea, and Vietnam. And I'm going to use the example of, well, Vietnam's a kind of an outlier because basically you just bribe anyone, and that's how things are done there. That's how the country's done. Whatever hey, you have your problems with any kind of government, police, or whatever, you just bribe them, and that's just kind of expected there. China, it's not so different than Vietnam, but there's a little bit more sort of to it, and then there's Korea, which is a little bit more lawful than the other two that I just described. But in my situations, if you guys don't know, I was a professor. I also worked in TV and I also worked in radio. And when you want to go in and you want to have legal working visas, essentially the way that programs work, and I'm using my example of abroad because it relates to the situation in USA. But basically, you have to fill all these forms and provide lots of documents of, in my case, degrees, etc., because you want to show that you have skills and expertise that a local doesn't have. So if you want to work abroad, it's very advantageous to have a degree, because sometimes people ask me that, say, Chris, I don't have a degree. Can I, work abroad? If you want to do so, and I say legally, because when you go through a legal route, you tend to have better conditions, etc. If you go through illegal routes, which happens, it happens in every country around the world. People come in illegally and illegally work, right? You tend to be more subjected to worse conditions, worse pay, etc. And even if you come in legally, employers will try to abuse you also, right? So this happens because you're a foreigner on foreign land. And it's like I said, I've worked abroad in other countries, and I know exactly how it is. Some situations they try to abuse you, other situations not. One thing that does happen when you work in another country is it's hard to change jobs because your visa is tied to your job. And so if you do want to change, well, you got to get permission from your employer, and it's a whole rigmarole, and that's kind of uncomfortable, right? And then they can hold it up, they can be slow, and and oftentimes you're just better off fishing out the contract. The other issue is, as well, is like, say, in the U.S. situation, here you have, which is the whole H-1B debate, you have people coming in legally, right? And there's been some question, and I can't prove every individual case. I just don't know, right? But I having a conversation with you about this stuff. Some people wonder, if someone comes in USA, are they coming in from sort of diploma mill, fake degree? Is their education up to par to the USA? Every situation is going to be different, right? So if in this situation, the discussion has been on Indians, I'll say if they come from IIT and it's a legit degree, chances are they're pretty good. IIT is very, very competitive in India, and it's the top school over there, right? So don't automatically assume that every Indian institution is terrible. There's some very, very good ones over there. I'm using the example of IIT, for example. Or the same situation, if you guys don't know, I taught at Tsinghua University in China, which is the #1 university there. And I can tell you the students there are very, very bright. They graduate, they go into jobs in government. President Xi, the current president, is a graduate of Tsinghua. Many of the top officials are. So the range is all over the gamut. And then the same situation in Korea, right? The range is all over gamut. The same way we have, university systems in USA where the range is all over the gamut, right? In terms of quality and the quality of the graduates, it's all over the map. But many Americans have been complaining, and this seems to sort of be a common theme that I keep hearing, and something I'm really happy that this came to our attention, because it is important to bring this up. If indeed many companies are abusing this visa system, and again, I told you in my situation, if you go in as a foreign worker, you have to prove that you have skills that a local worker doesn't have. But if companies are abusing the situation, say a Musk situation, to where you're bringing in foreign workers that may have the same skills, or maybe less, maybe a little bit better, but whatever, roughly the same skills as local American workers, and you're just hiring them just to get around paying someone more, or you're hiring them because you know that you can abuse them, that's an abuse of the system. But essentially, that's what the Trumps and the Musks want to do. This is also a part of the U.S. culture for years now, to where you have people, both sides of the aisle will hire illegal workers to be their gardeners, to fix their roofs, to be their nannies, etc. And that's what it is, because they're cheaper workers. Or they'll hire third parties so they can claim like they don't know, and then the third party will hire the illegal workers, whatever. At the end of the day, though, the thing that most bothers me about any of these debates, any of these debates that you have, is people lose sight that all parties involved are real human beings. right? And it's something that's always bothered me about the Trumpers and stuff like that is where they, and this would be Musk is especially guilty of it, and Trump, but they tweet out all day, every day that this dark people are going to hurt you. And it's like, and I don't even show these tweets because, perfectly frank, it's inflammatory. Like they just, throw in bomb in a theater, that kind of stuff. Like they just want to, scare everybody. And sometimes I'll see in comments, and you don't know if these are real comments or bot comments, that say, but Chris, these people are all dangerous, etc. And it's like, guys, these are all human beings, okay? Sure, there could be some dangerous ones, but it's the same with local-born Americans. Some local-born Americans do dangerous things the same way that, sometimes people from outside the country do dangerous things. But the reality is, like, generally speaking, these are all human beings. They just want a better life for themselves and their family. And I completely understand all sides of it. And I just wanted to explain sort of my perspective of this stuff. And I think if indeed, from the Musk and the Trump perspective, it's all about getting cheap workers they can abuse. It's got to be called out, right? It serves no purpose for us regular people who want rights for all workers of no matter where you're from, and you shouldn't want to sort of promote this culture of abuse from the upper class. I don't think that's healthy for any of us. I mean, frankly, when I make these videos, I mean, it's the 99% of us, right? 99.9% of us aren't going to be the top 0.1% that owns all of these corporations, etc. But that's sort of where the world is going, and I kind of see the MAGAs are like, hey, kick out the cheap workers, make the local Americans work those low paying jobs, basically work 80 hours or whatever, abolish minimum wage, all these kind of stuff, and they get people to scared on that stuff. And then if you're in a more so let's say degree American, well, forget you having a job too. We're going to create a visa program so we can bring in people that are cheaper. We'll just cycle them in every couple of years and just always find something cheaper. And it is a frustrating system that we have right now, and it's got to be called out. And it's interesting how this subject didn't come up before the election. It just it's not that it wasn't in place. It was. It just wasn't big campaign thing until now, to where you're seeing a real fight between the Musk camp and the Trump camp. So let me know what you think on this issue. I just shared some thoughts on it, and I'll catch you on the next video.